Hello, everybody. This is Rick Manning, President of Americans for Limited Government, talking about the CNN, Donald Trump dismembering the CNN last night. Pretty amazing. The fact is, it's so bad. It was such a slaughter that CNN, we said we need to get this full video, and it should be available right on CNN. So, we went and we tried to take a look. Let's find this video. And it's almost like playing Where's Waldo. You look at it and so we said, let's go to CNN and see what we've got. Well, we show up and we find an article that says, read transcript to CNN's town hall with former President Trump. Because when you're reading the transcript, you don't see the exchange of how Donald Trump was so Donald Trump in terms of dominating the stage and dominating the debate, not allowing the person who was interviewing him to assert facts or assert what they believe are facts, assert lies into the narrative, and create and detour the debate by sitting there and debating Donald Trump. He basically went through and told his story and pushed back. And CNN, not surprisingly, sat there and said, well, we've got to provide the transcript because the transcript doesn't actually show the complete domination that Donald Trump exhibited there in New Hampshire. So we sat there and said, well, okay, well, when we scrolled down, we said, okay, well, the transcript, presidential town hall. So let's see what they have. Maybe let's see what that is. We go over and we find fact-checking Trump's claims. Once again, CNN. Let's go. Good guy, CNN. Let's not let people actually view the whole thing. No. We need to tell people what to think. So we're going to fact check it. So people who don't want to actually watch the video are afraid to watch the video. CNN apparently doesn't want people to watch the video because what they want to do is they want to tell people what to think after the fact rather than allowing people to see the video and actually draw their own conclusions. What a concept. The fact is, if this were a video where Donald Trump got destroyed, I guarantee you we would have it in living color all over the internet. So then we went to CNN YouTube and say, surely they had to put it on CNN and YouTube. I mean, they've got a YouTube channel. By the way, Americans for Limited Government has a YouTube channel. I would encourage you, if you're on YouTube and you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button so you get notifications on every time we go on live. Because apparently we go live a whole lot more on YouTube than CNN does. Because when you go onto the CNN YouTube page, you get, is the AI boom driving a global killer robot arms race? Maggie Hagerman's got something to say. She's analyzing the Trump appearance, telling you he locked himself into some trouble. Well, there you go. Let's worry about what Maggie Haberman has to say from the New York Times. Ukraine receives long-range Storm Shadow cruise missiles from the UK. Okay, so we're going to blow up more people. Here, why this GOP senator isn't supporting Trump for the GOP nomination. I don't know who that GOP senator is. I don't recognize him, but that tells you how big of his profile he has. And I'm confident that he's one of the heroes of CNN. I was surprised it wasn't Romney, but nonetheless. How about the next row? You think, now this is the big news for today. This is the big news. And yet, no, CNN, we can't find it. Natalie Holloway's family, we have the Natalie Holloway story, tragic. Young woman gets killed in Aruba, and now about 10 years later, the alleged perpetrator is going to be brought to trial in Alabama. Tragic story, and one that a lot of parents really felt really deeply about, but certainly not the biggest story of the day. Title 42 expires tonight. So that's from yesterday. So they do talk about the border and say, gee, we're going to have, so it's not like they weren't talking about contemporary things. So you just keep going down and down and down. Oh, here we go. We finally get something on it. Analyst says this is the single most important moment for Trump. Now that was before it. They didn't show the most important. They thought it was important enough to have an analyst talk about how it was the most important moment for Trump. They cut a little clip out to show that was the most important, what they thought was the most important moment. But remember, this is CNN editing for you what the most important. So they're telling you what to think rather than you be able to draw your own conclusion. Then they had 8 people in town hall and spent most of the time with this guy, the guy who's a CNN guy, telling those people, trying to tell those people what to think, and those people telling them, "No, we don't care what you think." And then you've got a bunch of clips of it that they've chosen to let you see. because those clips, they believe, put Donald Trump in the absolute worst light. So you ask yourself, why would CNN submarine their own scoop? Well, here you go. Analysis. CNN faces harsh criticism after Trump unleashed a fire hose of lies during his live. This is CNN Business, a fire hose of lies. Okay, so Donald Trump stands up for himself. He tells the truth about what's going on in the world. And CNN, in their normal kind of neutral way, calls it a fire hose of lies. And all the left went nuts. They went nuts. Why did they go nuts? Because the best way to prevent Donald Trump from becoming president is to only allow him to be defined through the eyes of the radical left establishment media. That is how they do it. That's how they manipulate America and attempt to create voters who vote against Donald Trump, not because of what he says, not because of what he does, but because of how he's portrayed by these shills, these George Soros shills. So having said that, we're now going to go and take a look at a couple of the clips ourselves, because, at some point, might as well see what he has to actually say. And the first one we're going to talk about is Donald Trump on the debt ceiling. And it's just classic Trump.
When we have a debt limit, and they use that very seriously with me. They came in, Schumer came in with Nancy Pelosi, and they were using it. We'll violate it, we'll do whatever. They talked a whole lot different than they do right now. I say to the Republicans out there, congressmen, senators, if they don't give you massive cuts, you're going to have to do a default. And I don't believe they're going to do a default, because I think the Democrats will absolutely cave, because you don't want to have that happen. But it's better than what we're doing right now, because we're spending money like drunken sailors.
So just to be clear, Mr. President, you think the U.S. should default if the White House does not agree to the spending cuts Republicans are demanding?
Well, you might as well do it now, because you'll do it later, because we have to save this country. Our country is dying. Our country is being destroyed by stupid people, by very stupid people.
Okay, remember, I'm just going to remind people of this. One of the great frustrations that Donald Trump faced when he was president was he get handed these 1,000-page bills, spending bills. He'd be told, you have to sign them. And he says, but I don't like stuff that's in them. And they say, no, you have to sign them. We're going to default on the debt. And his own people in his White House would sit there and make deals and then shove them in front of him. And he'd say, wait a second, I didn't agree to this. And, that's part of the problem with his personnel selection. But one would think he's learned from that. But he is somebody who's had to sign bills and have to face the reality of signing bills that are bad, have a lot of bad in them. And, what he's saying here is very simple. I don't know, you could hear him. We have a debt problem that is almost insurmountable. And he does not believe that Joe Biden is willing to not sign a debt ceiling increase. That he needs a debt ceiling increase to sign. He's not willing to default. And given that, there's only one bill that's actually been passed. That's by the House Republicans, which puts some spending cuts in place and also puts the REINS Act in place, which allows for Congress to hold the Biden administration accountable on all their crazy regs they're putting out and have to put those regs to a vote of Congress before they can go into motion. So lots of good stuff in there. And Donald Trump saying, hey, don't get cowed by their bravado, because ultimately Joe Biden has to sign a debt ceiling increase. He's not going to be willing to default. And hence, the cards are all inside of those who are willing to be tough enough to play them to the end. Let's go to see a second one that he's got. This is Trump's thoughts on war.
Mr. President, can I just follow up on that, because that's a really important statement
let me
that
just
you just
follow
made
up.
there. Can you say if you want Ukraine or Russia to win this war?
I want everybody to stop dying. They're dying. Russians and Ukrainians. I want them to stop dying. And I'll have that done. I'll have that done in 24 hours. I'll have it done. You need the power of the presidency to do it.
But you won't say that you want Ukraine to win. You
know what I'll say? I'll say this. I want Europe to put up more money, because they're in for 20 billion. We're in for 170, and they should be. And they should equalize. They have plenty of money. They should equalize. I got with NATO, when I sat down, I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars that they weren't paying under Obama and Bush and all of these other presidents. That's why they're able to help them fight the war, because of the money I got. But I
let's
want
talk about
Europe.
what's happening in Ukraine,
Excuse me.
Mr.
I want
President.
Europe to put up more money, because they're laughing at us. They think we're a bunch of jerks. We're spending $170 billion for faraway land, and they're right next door to that land, and they're in for 20. I don't think so.
Wow. So it's once again, standard Trump. He's saying they're standing up for Americans, saying, you know, I guess that if you want to say it's a binary situation, I want Russia to win or Ukraine to win. He refused to say that, because ultimately a solution to this will be one where both sides lose a little and win a little. That's how you end a war. Unless you're willing to go, and we're willing to go and put troops on the ground and try to take Moscow. Well, if we're willing to do that, then I'm sure then you can say, oh, well, we're fighting for the Russians to win, or for the Ukrainians to win. Or if you sit there and you say, we're going to basically say, here's the path, here, we're going to pave the pathway to Kiev, and say, here you go, we want the Ukrainians to lose, that we want the Russians to win. Bottom line is, what Donald Trump's, he understands that in any deal like this, there's too much invested by both sides to say one's going to get a unilateral loss out of it. And there's no way Putin will ever allow for a unilateral loss to occur. So why would he sit there? Why would he sit there and say, oh, I want these people to win or that people to win? He wants the world to win. And the best way for the world to win is for this war to end. That's how the world wins. We cannot afford to continue fighting this war. We cannot, through it as a proxy. We're spending our munitions. We're putting our own national security at risk, because we don't have the munitions to fight a war with China if we had to. That's just a fact, because we're sending them all to Ukraine. Well, guess what, folks? Donald Trump actually understands that, and he's willing to tell the truth. So that's why. That's telling the truth. Telling like that is why they call it a fire hose of lies. There was not a single lie in anything he said there. And oh, by the way, it was shocking, because you know what nobody in Washington, D.C. says is exactly what he said. And it's about time people start telling America the truth. So with that, I'm just going to commend you to, once again, follow us. And secondly, Catherine Mortensen has rejoined us in doing some videos. And she's doing some really good work on this. And she's got a number of clips off this debate that we're going to be releasing. We've got one that was released this morning. And so I would encourage you to go and check out Catherine's work. It's also available on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, on any of those channels, no matter which one you're on. Go to Americans for Limited Government, like us. Twitter, go to Americans for Government, like us, follow us. Because ultimately, folks, that's how we can communicate with you in the future. Because don't leave it to happenstance as to whether or not you get this content. And with that, I'm going to let you go. Thank you for tuning in. And this is Rick Manning, Americans for Limited Government, signing off.